Well, I've climbed to the top of this hill in the Somerset landscape, and we're now looking out across the levels towards the Mendip Hills. And I'm with Andrew Smith. It's fascinating, Andrew, isn't it, to think that 300 million years ago this was all underwater, part of a shallow tropical sea.
I think we're so used to things being stable, particularly in this part of the world, that it's very hard to envisage the kind of movement of the land and shake-ups which geologists tell us have been going on for hundreds of thousands of years. Particularly since historians and anthropologists tell us over and over again that human life and society started only 5,000 years ago in Sumeria. So what happened in between? I ask myself. There has to have been something happened. It wasn't that human life just started in Sumeria in those times. There have been these mythological stories of the golden age of Atlantis and the golden ages in other places, as well as all sorts of other happenings.
Well, it's said, of course, that the Atlantean civilization, and we must remember that the conditions for life on the planet weren't the same as they are now. They were much less physically dense in terms of the energetic, the prevailing energy that envelops the planet. And it's a change in energetic conditions that really drives the way life evolves. So I think it's quite possible that there were several species of human beings back in the Atlantean period, some ground down into physicality more than others, and some with perhaps a heightened sense of perception of the energies governing the planet. I don't know what you think of that, Andrew.
Well, I think the human species has gone through many different forms, from various mythological stories that I've come across. One gets the sense almost of a great experimenter. That's a new name for God, I suppose. A new experimenter of trying out new forms of human life and seeing how they did. And the stories often indicate that they do well for a little while, and then negativity creeps in, and there's a deterioration after that. And so eventually they pull the plug on the experiment and move on to the next world. But that pulling the plug does usually mean some major rearrangement of the land masses, massive cleansing. And this is part of what's coming as we see it in 2012. Nothing of the same scale has happened in some of the times past, like Noah's Ark, but it does seem that there are going to be some major rearrangements, particularly in the coastal areas.
Well, I think there will obviously be arrangements to the physical nature of the planet. There will also be rearrangements to the energetic fabric of the planet, the very vibration at which the planet resonates at. And of course, many of these ideas fit with the Eastern mystic tradition. The East has held onto these ideas related to energy and the idea of the etheric through various traditions. I wouldn't be surprised then if we see the embodiment of a new energy system and a heightened perception to energy for us all. And of course this brings great challenges to us, because we can no longer be subjected to negative emotions, negative thoughts, because the energy behind those thoughts will actually project out. Furthermore, we will be able to communicate with beings in other dimensions, not just off-planet beings perhaps, but the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, maybe even the elemental kingdom. So we are set to become truly, or regain our status as multi-dimensional beings. I don't know how you see that one, Andrew.
Well, from what I've been shown and what I feel about the new consciousness, sometimes called the fifth dimensional consciousness, it'll be a very, very different experience of life. It's rather like you're saying, Robert, that you will be able to be conscious of many, many different life forms simultaneously. At the moment we have a rather clear set of boundaries, as we might say, such that we can easily fall into the misunderstanding that we are separate from these other life forms, and hence we don't really have to take care of them. Will change very, very sharply in 2012, and we'll have a much higher level of consciousness. That is, of course, assuming that we've made those choices to rise to that level individually. And it is an individual choice to do that or not to do that. We don't really, give much credence into the idea that all of humanity is just floating up to this higher level without making any effort whatsoever. It's just, that would be just too easy, and it's not how spiritual evolution works.
Yes. Well, we are regaining our status as cosmic beings, because the nature of planetary energies shifted several thousand years ago to the point where we became very dense physical beings encapsulated in matter, and our evolution has really been dominated through the mastery of matter, the mastery of our environment around us. But of course, the laws of physics as we've known them are set to change, and as you're saying, it's not just a case of change for humanity. It's a reconnection with a spiritual hierarchy that is itself set to evolve in its level of vibration. I mean, it's an absolute. George Trevelyan many years ago prophesied it would be the greatest turnaround in consciousness imaginable. I don't know what you feel about that.
Well, from what I've been shown is that there's going to be this massive evolution of the planet Earth, first and foremost. The human role is to make sufficient strides as individuals that we can keep up with the Earth's higher energies. It's almost like an initiative process the Earth's going through, and we're invited to be part of it. But it has to be a conscious join-in. But it is part of a much larger evolution that the whole of our solar system, the other planets and the Sun are going through a massive evolutionary shift at the same time. And this is part of an upgrade of our whole galaxy. So any idea that because it's inconvenient to humanity at the moment, that it can somehow be put off, it is a great misunderstanding.
Yes, that's a misunderstanding, I think, that has arisen because we as a human aspect of consciousness have lost our cosmic connection, I think, to a rather large extent through our evolution into matter, and it's really now a case of us wishing to reconnect with ourselves and really fulfill our potential as interdimensional beings, communicating and existing at a number of different vibrational frequencies. I think we can talk more about that in another video on another day, Andrew. I don't know what you think.
Yeah. Well, it just reminds me of what my old teachers used to say about how within the higher self of each person there were all these other lifetimes when we had been into these other dimensions to which you're just referring. And I think in fifth dimensional consciousness we'll be far closer to our higher self-consciousness and have much more access, as you were saying, to these other dimensions.
Yes. So we were really talking about the outpourings of the water of Aquarius in some sort of sense, in the sense that as a human consciousness we need to start interacting with each other through the vibration of love, compassion, service and openness, as opposed to fear and ego. But it's not just the human family, of course, it's how we act. As we need to preserve our individuality, and that's taken. Our individualities, our free will to some extent, but we must aspire to be our highest selves, and as Andrew has said, exist as part of a wider network that embraces all forms of life at a variety of different vibrational frequencies. Well, thank you, Andrew. It's been
A pleasure.
lovely, yes. And we will be back soon with another video that perhaps talks about different aspects